Supplies right here, 500.
I just want you to make a big circle.
Jail. We're in the jail.
Circle. Okay, is that everybody? Nope, we still got some more.
These are
Guys, can I have a big circle? Because we're going to look at things in here.
Guys, you all know what a circle looks like.
That's
Not a circle. Come on, leave the middle open and get up, please.
Okay, guys, my time is going because the next group will be coming here.
What time is it?
Okay, natural lighting. Lighting would have been they did not burn candles or kerosene because they wanted to save them because getting supplies and stuff out here in the frontier, it took longer. So you'll notice that the windows are really high. Please remember this building was not here. It was torn down. Wasn't a building there, okay? Firehouse comes in the 1900s. Okay. I can't talk over yet, so if you hear me stop, that's the reason why. Okay, so natural lighting was used in here, usually around 5:36 in the evening. They would start lighting candles or kerosene lamps in here. This is where the business of the jail took place. So this is the north door. One of your questions is asking you about what the purpose of the two doors was. The north door was used for business purposes. Let's say the prisoner had guests like the attorney or lawyer, or if the prisoner wanted to come in and see them, this is the door that they would enter in. What I want to explain to you is the difference between a marshal and a sheriff. We started off with sheriffs. And then in about 1870, because there was so much crime going on with banks being robbed and the trains being robbed, they created the marshal position. Once the marshal position was put in place, the sheriff became like the policeman of the county. So they would do there would be a head sheriff, and they would be doing all the criminal stuff here in the county. The marshal had special duties. They could go across state. They could go into Kansas to get their outlaw. Or they could go to Clay County up north. Or they could go to Cass County south of us. So they were able to have more jurisdiction. And in the book Lockdown, which is kind of our Bible that we use here, we state that the purpose of the marshal was for criminals who were robbing trains and the railroads, because that was a big institution for the day. Unfortunately, some of the banks, they weren't loaning money. After the Civil War, there's a depression, and they are not giving money out for people to rebuild farms and to get their crops back in order. So that's a problem there. And then the banks the railroads were taking land away from farmers. If they couldn't pay it cheap, then they took it from the farmers. And so institutions like the railroad and the banks were not very popular here in this county because they divided up farms and all of that. So one of the families that has a history here is the Bugler family. And I'm just going to share an incident that happened to the Bugler family. Henry Bugler was sitting here at this desk. Now, children are not supposed to be in here, but the story is that his 4-year-old son was in here for some reason. Maybe he had a bad dream or whatever. And he's here with his father. While he's with his son, there are horses coming in. And they park their horses right here in front of the jail. They have bandanas on. They break the door in. They mortally wound Henry Bugler. The son gets nicked by the bullet, but so he doesn't die, but the father does. And they get the prisoner that they're wanting, and they escaped. The two masterminds of the escape were set free. I mean, they went out Kansas, nobody ever saw them again. But they were able to get the person that was in prison here and the other two that helped with the escape, and all three of them were hung. The lady that was married to Henry Gugler was Mary Gugler. She was a real special lady. She's the only known woman that we know of who ran the jail. They must have really thought something special about her because usually women were not put in those positions. She had 12 children. 5 of her children were her own. 7 of the children were children who had been displaced. They call them pauper children because either their parents were killed during the Civil War or their parents left them. You know, when they were leaving the county, they left their children. And so they didn't have a home. So she took in 7 of these children. So they took over a lot of the domestic housekeeping here at the house. What I explain to you is they call it the marshal's house, but the marshal or the sheriff, the head sheriff, or the marshal, the head marshal, did not live in this house. There was a designated deputy, either a sheriff or the marshal's deputy, who ran the house. This was an elected position, and so everybody that the marshal or the sheriff hired would be under their watch. And if they lost the election after 2 years, then a whole new group would come in. And that sheriff or marshal would hire all the help that would work here. So the family that was running this was actually like a deputy to the sheriff or to the marshal. They discontinued marshals in 1923 and went back to the sheriff. And the only reason is because they didn't need to have that position anymore.
Is this one still alive?
Who's the?
Oh,
Oh, no. This is back in the 1866 to be exact. So, yeah, no, he's no longer alive. Here. So I want you girls to realize that there was a woman who did run the jail and was a real special. We do not know what happened to Mary after her term was up as a jailer. I'm just hoping that she was able to remarry and have a real good life. Yes?
There's a dent in the wall.
Yes. This is a very old building.
Which is why you shouldn't be leaning
Yeah.
against the
And
line.
or sitting in. Yeah.
Leaning on anything.
Okay, the next room that we're going to be going to, you would call it the living room, we call it the parlor in the 1800s. So we're going to enter in there. When we enter in there, just make rows because the space is real tight. And again, please don't touch anything.
Okay. So here's our cameraman. We just added him in the team.
So I exist. Why is your phone so hot?
Okay. This says Whisper. What's his name? Me and Creighton is all the way back there. Dang.
That's a big Bible.
Make rows. Really? Come on. Make a row. Make rows. Now that is totally what's. Come on, move up.
What is that?
We can all get in here, but we just have to make rows. Okay, I would like to say to the students and adults that this is probably more elaborate a setting than what the jailer's family would be accustomed to. Over here, there's a piano. They may not have had a piano in here. There's a real nice desk. This desk belonged to Henry Clay. He was Secretary of State of the United States. That's also where the name Clay County comes from in here. That's Mrs. Waldo.